Well, welcome into another episode of Story World. Steve Schramm here with my boy Al. What's up, man?
Boy, Al is doing just fine, Steve. How you doing?
Nice, man. Doing good. Doing super good. Really excited to talk about space, the final frontier. These are
Yeah.
the voyages of the Story World podcast. Anyway,
Wow,
yeah,
getting
man.
nerd already.
Right? Totally. Yes. No, it's exciting, man. We talked about Star Trek a few episodes back, and me and Alex just kind of thought, hey, space is something that in different ways we both kind of have this irrational obsession with or love for at least. And so we thought, hey, why not talk about it, right?
Yeah, as far as like general interests, you and I are kind of aligned, but when it gets into specifics, we're very actually quite different on
Yeah,
our
it's true.
different interest subjects. But for some reason, space is the one thing where you and I just like click on, and anything with
Yeah.
space just fascinates both of us. So I'm really excited to get into it and talk about what gets you going about space, what gets me going about space, and just all the cool intricacies of it.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe to set it up kind of to start with for sure, because it's kind of like space. Like, isn't this the Story World podcast? Well, if you notice in our, I must say, beautiful podcast artwork, space is a theme in there, and of course um that's not by accident. I mean, I would say a couple, two really quick things because, like I said, tying this into stories. First of all, space is very much, of course, a part of the human story, which we'll talk about a little bit. Um, but it's a very inspiring, in fact, part of being a human is our past journeys to space and our future opportunities to travel to space. So it's part of the human story, and therefore it's related to stories. But also there just are some really, really great books, movies, and, again, real life things that are, story driven things about space. And so it's like, I think space is very applicable to the Story World podcast. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've done before too in the past, and probably similar for this one, and what we'll continue to do is have a general podcast like this about space. And then there are several podcasts we'll have in the future that dig down into different story related ideas about space, whether it has to do with a different ancient cultures and how they viewed space and how that evolved their storytelling. Or I know it's getting down Steve's alley too, but I have an interest for is writers in the Bible or the Israelites and what they viewed space as and how that, kind of formed their thoughts on different
I
things
love
in the
that
Bible. And
topic. Yes.
so yes, this general topic, we might not hone in on anything specifically story related. We'll touch on it, but really just kind of give this overview for when we do branch out into those specific topics into the future.
Yes, yes, I love reading about ancient Israelite and Mesopotamian cosmology.
Yes.
Some people read Karen Kingsbury, some people read J.K. Rowling, and some people read Mesopotamian cosmology. And that would be me. Okay, that would be me.
Yes.
So it's fun. It's really good stuff. So, I think for me, I guess I'll just kind of start off here, and we'll travel down some of these roads together. But for me, my sort of space origin story really starts when I was a kid, and this is something I know we're going to get to, but just to kind of pre-frame a little bit, I think you told me that actually your interest in space came a little bit later. So this is one of those details that we sort of differ on, but we
Mhm.
ended up in a very similar place. For me, I would really say there are 3 things that really piqued my interest in space from a young age, and it's probably those 3 things that made me, or that I just, gave me that interest so that I still have it today, and today it's even more so. Those were Power Rangers in space, okay? So, Pow Power Rangers Turbo, which
Grounded in
was
reality. Good stuff.
yes, Power Rangers, Turbo, which was one of my very favorite Power Ranger series. Actually, ironically, my kids are watching it literally right now across the hall, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Anyway, Power Rangers Turbo, and those, if you know anything about your Power Rangers Turbo went into your Power Rangers in space. Okay, so the Turbo Rangers -1 went into space. They picked up a new Ranger when they got there, kind of thing, and then you're going on
Nice.
from there. So, um, I just love, like, I thought, man, that's really, really cool. The other thing was Kennedy Space Center. So my mom, so actually, like my family has really loved space stuff for quite some time. My grandparents, fun fact, were in the crowd and took pictures on their own camera when the Challenger exploded in like 1989, I think that was, or 86, somewhere around there when the Challenger exploded. They have pictures of it.
You said they were there?
They were there, yeah, they were there at the launch when
How
that
many
happened.
people attended that? Because I've seen
I
footage,
have
of
no idea.
course, of, like, people actually being there witnessing it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like a overly crowded group of people.
No, I don't know, to be honest with you. I have no idea, but they were
That's
there.
crazy, wow.
Yeah, they were there and took
Mm.
pictures, and, anyway, so we used to go to Disney a lot. I was very, very fortunate, that's one thing that my mom just sorta always made room in the budget for and time for, was to go to Disney. And so we would go to Disney a lot, and of course, it's about an hour or so, hour and a half maybe, drive from the Orlando area to Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, and all that stuff. Not Cape Canaveral specifically, but the Kennedy Space Center. And so at the Kennedy Space Center, you there's a lot of like old retired like rockets and shuttles and all that stuff, and you can learn all about space. It's like a public place where you can go and learn all about space. So that was really interesting. And then the other thing for me growing up was Apollo 13, the movie Apollo 13, which I think we've hit it at before at other times on the podcast. We talked about it. But it's definitely one of my favorite movies, and watched it growing up, and still continue to love watching it today. And those three things I would say really contributed to my just irrational love for space.
Yeah, it's interesting. All that stuff makes sense where you would naturally kinda gravitate towards finding an interest in those things. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of ironic too because like one of them, Power Rangers, is purely fictional. Kennedy
yeah,
Space Center is like purely based in reality, and then Apollo 13 is of course a fictional movie based on a real thing that happened, right? So it's kind of I don't know,
interesting.
super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got started into it later for a couple different reasons. Growing up, um, didn't have I guess I was into Power Rangers when I was super, super young, but I don't remember it because I was so young, and so Power Rangers didn't lead me to that, unfortunately, Steve. That could have just been another thing we had in common, but oh well,
Yeah,
this
that's okay.
opportunity. I did watch Star Wars was very big for me growing up. There were things that I
Uh,
watched that took place in space, but I was more gravitated towards Lord of the Rings and fantasy side of things. And then I also spent a lot of time just naturally reading and then also playing sports. Took up a huge time when I was a kid and teenager in high school. And so I think I probably would have gone into it more if I actually enjoyed maybe sci-fi as much as I did fantasy. But sci-fi, and even now, I'm kind of choosy with what I watch for sci-fi and space things. I like more reality-based stuff. Like, obviously, it's not. We had a podcast on a couple weeks ago, but like Interstellar is obviously saw not some reality things in there, but that is more or less tuned towards what space travel could be like versus something like Star Trek, where it's that's
yeah.
obviously very much heavily sci-fi. So what really got me into it, um, I would say the main thing is I don't remember specifically around the time. It was sometime either around college or just after college, where I definitely had a general kind of fascination for space and reading some different facts about it. But what really got me invested in it was just listening to debates and listening at different arguments for the existence of God. Not even the Christian, God and Jesus, but just for existence for a creator, a God of the universe. And so one of my favorite arguments for it was the cosmological one. And so that just kind of gravitated me towards looking into more space facts and just the scope of the universe and how it operates and how it all came to be. And so I dug down into, hours of hours into, studying the kind of factual side of those things and kind of the nerdy bit, but then also along the way stumbling upon just really cool facts. What really blew me away, I guess, from the fascination part that really suckered me in was just the scope and size and
Yeah.
how everything truly is just relative once you get out of the space of Earth and out of the solar system. The
Yeah.
size of suns compared to other suns, or black holes compared to suns, or galaxies compared to other galaxies. I mean, it's all you can say numbers of how large some of these things are and like, the distance between different things. And it, you can say, wow, that's a big number, but your brain really can't truly comprehend how big some of these things are. And so, anyway, that it just kind of
Yeah.
fascinated me. And that's kind of where my general fascination and, excitement about space came through. And that was about the time where
Yeah.
Interstellar came out. And so that kind of helped a lot.
Oh, cool. Well, I think real quick then I'll kind of rabbit trail a little bit further into
Yep.
sort of the realistic religion version or religion sort of idea of things, and then we can back out of that because I know some people won't necessarily be interested in that. Um, just the other day, so one of the probably the foremost defenders of the cosmological argument that you mentioned today is William Lane Craig, and
Yep.
just the other day I was mentioning, or I was rather I was watching a clip of him talking about scientists' belief in God, and you know, the point of the clip was to show that based on sociological studies, actually today, um, the rate has maintained pretty constant in terms of actual, like you might say, secular scientists who um, or not secular scientists, mainstream scientists, right? They do science not for any particular religious reason. They're just scientists, but they're also Christians or religious in some way. And sociologically, that number hasn't changed. So as we've increasingly learned more about science, like there's sort of this popular idea that scientists are becoming like less Christian or less theist or whatever, and that's actually not true. The rates are about the same. And he went on. Oops, I just hit my microphone there. He went on to mention some specific names. I didn't write them down, but some specific names of contemporary cosmologists and physicists
Mm.
who are some of the best known and are actually quite vocal about their convictions as Christians, and which is really really interesting. And kind of like it sort of defeats the narrative that all scientists are basically just atheists, that kind of thing. Um, and so I found that interesting. And you mentioned the size and scope, and that's where I look and I'm just like, it just seems so obvious that this is like there's got to be some sort of purpose. There's got to be some sort of direction, behind this. It seems odd that you would have all of this and it would just come from nothing, from nowhere, for no reason. Nobody designed it, nobody developed it. And, what's interesting is that some people have strangely been led to the opposite conclusion. I remember, Carl Sagan, if you, ever saw the series, the
Mhm.
Cosmos, um,
Yep.
this was sort of Carl Sagan's baby, and he used to talk about, Earth being the pale blue dot, and sort of the idea that he was getting from that was like, basically humans are just insignificant. We're just this one little insignificant thing on this pale blue dot. And why think that there's a God out there who created us, cares about us, loves us, or whatever, when you've got this whole vast universe. And the thing is, what's interesting is I think back in his day, and I'm not sure exactly when he died, but back in his day, I think there was a lot more optimism and hope that frankly, that extraterrestrial something or other would be, we would know about it by now. We would have
Mm.
knowledge of alien life by now and other civilizations, even and at least other habitable planets. And here we are, at the very least, a few decades, I believe, removed from his death, maybe even longer than that. And the prospects are only becoming more grim. And that begs also for some sort of an explanation. And so this is another reason I love space. And to sort of capstone my thinking down this road, I have speculations, because I do too wonder what it's for. What is why all these planets? Why all these stars? If there is a God, and I believe there is, it does seem, I'll admit, kind of odd that um we know about all this stuff. We can take awesome pictures of it. We can grasp with not obviously the full spectrum of knowledge, but we can grasp the size and immensity of it. Um, today with pretty accurately using the equipment that we have, and we're aware of quite a bit of stuff out there, and yet it seems to just be us. And my personal speculation is that most people think of heaven as this sort of whatever pie in the sky, lofty thing floating on clouds with harps. Well, that's not anywhere near a biblical description of heaven. But my speculatory part of this is, I wonder if one of these days at the end, in the final resurrection, whatever, at the end of days, and the current earth and heaven are destroyed or whatever and made new, like the Bible talks about. I wonder if we're all going to each get our own planet. That's all I'm saying. I just want to know if I'm going to get to be the governor of a planet. And I think that would be really cool if planets turned out to be like little individual homes for everybody. You get kind of like Oprah, right? You get a planet, you get a planet, you get a planet. Anyway, that's just what I would love. But
Well, good news. There's an organization out west called LDS, and you can and they if you're interested in ruling a planet one day, I'm just saying that
oh, that's
just scoot out there,
that's almost not even funny. But that was actually pretty
to any
good.
LDS people who may actually maybe listening to. I grew up parsing the LDS church. Love you guys.
Yeah.
No
You-
problem. Just an off the cuff joke.
that was pretty good.
I
It was
love you
actually pretty
guys.
good. If you don't know, you don't know. So
If you
it's
don't know,
okay.
you don't know.
But yeah,
Uh,
I do think the glory of God is
yeah.
revealed in the heavens, and I love that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that this is a topic you and I should do. I feel like you and I could sit down for like maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours about this. So just to kind of,
Mm,
yeah, to keep
yeah.
my response to yours brief. Yeah, I've always, uh, again, this is just my personal opinion that I think that space, the universe is out there for just even a longer, greater purpose, I guess you can say, beyond our existence here and in our bodies right now.
100%.
Maybe it's not. Who knows? Maybe all this will go away, and then it's just something totally new. But yeah, that's just kind of what I. That's just my personal opinion. What I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just that the more that I studied just the space and just the complexity of it, and then it gets into more science and what actually applies to Earth too, not just in space, but just the laws of nature. Um, yeah, it just for me just seems pretty clear that someone had to create all that. I suppose it could have all come from nothing, but again, that's more speculative than looking at a realistic beginning, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's kind of where I got into, and then from there, honestly, I haven't. After kind of having that established, like kind of initial base, it kind of branched out from there. Now, really, like I haven't listened to a debate from William Lane Craig in a long time. And really now it's just kind of a pure interest thing. We're like looking at facts. I like looking at new images of telescopes that come out from NASA and other, um, other organizations and watching sci-fi movies. And it's just a great fascination that I have. I just telling Steve and I were talking and I was told my wife, I said, like it'd be kind of cool if I could just like die on Mars one day. Once I get up there in age, I'll just take one of those final voyages, travel, 8 months to a couple of years, how long it takes to get there, and take my last breaths on a planet looking out at Earth. I think that would be kind of cool.
100%, man. Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah, that kind of covers my interest with it, and yeah, so
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say I have a couple more things. I mean, kind of along those lines is uh space travel, right? Just the future of like what SpaceX is doing, talking about going to Mars and like there's the possibility. Musk has talked about the possibility of manned trips to Mars
mhm.
by 2029, I
Yeah,
think,
it's exciting.
which is huge. I mean, even if he's wrong by a little bit, cool. Like the fact that it could even be somewhat speculated
Oh
as
yeah.
being that close, it's pretty insane to think about. And it's like it really does feel like the next chapter of the human story is upon us in that regard. Now,
To kind of link this to story too is think about so when we went to the moon and what was it 68 or 69 or it was late 60, it was one of those years, give or take.
yeah, 69, I
Um,
think.
I believe it was. Um,
Yeah.
regardless of the exact year, two things there. How I just think it's crazy that with the limited amount of technology we had there, we still went to the moon. I know there might be conspiracy theorists that disagree with that, and
Right.
maybe you guys are right, but just how incredible that is. And
Yeah.
two, think of all the stories out there just based off of that fact. Just being able to have that space travel. There were sci-fi movies like before that, and other sci-fi movies will come that don't directly relate to traveling to the moon. But think of like Armageddon or movies like that, disaster movies and other things where you have so many of these stories, whether it's books or movies and conversations about, well, what if this comet does hit the Earth? Could we, send a shuttle up there, break it up? And all of that, the realistic stuff that we talk about and movies that we see derive from what we've done actually in history with traveling to the moon and orbiting the Earth and being able to do all this
Yeah.
awesome stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Actually, it's one of the points that I had written down as
Oh,
well.
well, there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm amazed at how early we figured this stuff out. The fact that manned flight was achieved in 1903.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's like we just barely took up off the ground, took off took off whatever we took off. I took off from the ground for the first time,
Yeah.
in 1903.
And how long did it take to quote unquote perfect that? 20 years, something like that?
Yeah, I don't
Before you
even
got
yeah, that's a good
you got
point.
yeah. Oh,
I don't even know,
yeah.
but then, uh, just 6 decades later,
Yeah.
7
It's
decades later, we're at the moon? Like, that's crazy, and so, like,
Yep.
I remember watching, Hidden Figures. So Hidden Figures is a fantastic movie about, um, the, um about the computers,
Mhm.
okay? The computers that took you that helped with these early space missions and getting even to the moon and back, etc. And when I say computers, note I'm not talking about a machine. I'm literally talking about people who computed. That
Yeah.
that's what they were. Like you saw the sign on the door that said
Yeah.
computers, and then when you went through the door, there were humans there. And a lot of these humans were like black females. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, this is so cool. But the movie Hidden Figures tells all about this, and it follows there's one woman, there's three women, but there's one like really specifically who's like super decorated or whatever. She just passed away actually a few years ago, I believe now. But it's an incredible story just about all the math and calculation and computation that used to have to be done even by hand. And then of course the computers back then, the actual machines were huge, that were developed after that. And I think again, I don't know if this is just pop culture fiction stuff or whatever, but I've heard over and over again this idea that literally an iPhone in your pocket has more computing power, than what it took to go to the moon and back. Which
Yeah.
is just like again,
It's crazy.
mind blown
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I'm always just amazed at how, early actually we figured out some of this stuff and how quickly we were able to get as far as we were. I'll admit it raises interesting questions about, well, like why was the last time we went to the moon, basically 50-ish years ago? I mean, I know we went I
Yeah.
think there was I don't know, believe it or not, I don't actually know my manned missions that
I think
well.
we've gone like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, but not like it's
Like,
been a long
it's been a
time, right?
long time.
Since we've been, and it's like, if this was so, like, why haven't we been with that? So it
1972.
was the last time? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, at least not about this, but, I do think we went to the moon, but I'll grant that what? It has it been that so is that 50 years? Am I doing my
Yeah.
math?
I
Yes.
actually
Yeah,
understand. I don't get the flat earth thing, but I actually understand where people question why we land the moon. I actually
sure,
do understand that one. I
sure.
do, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
completely crazy.
It really seems like we should have been there in the last 50 years. I
Well,
mean,
the time
that's a
it took
long
from the
time.
first time we had flight to going to the moon is a little bit longer than the time since we've gone to the moon
Exactly.
till now, where we're finally just starting to go to Mars. Obviously, I guess you could say a quick turnaround, but it just seems like, man, you
Yeah.
think that there would be a bigger
Yeah.
leap than that. So,
Yeah, and maybe if I literally took 5 minutes to Google, "Why haven't we been back to the
yeah,
moon?" I would read a couple sufficient arguments, and that would be totally fine for me, and whatever, whatever, fine. Um, I guess I'd just say that, at least in that regard, if that's one of the arguments raised, as of right now, I sympathize with it. So it seems like we should have been back, but, because we're talking about Mars, right? And we're talking about Mars, and we haven't even been to the moon again in 50 years, so that seems odd.
think
Um
think how crazy it would be to be the first group of people to go to a different planet and land on Mars. What kind of
Ye
feeling that would be, man. It'd
I
just be
mean,
awesome.
it'd be probably similar to watching Interstellar. I mean, or maybe a little
Why
better.
go to Mars when you can just watch Interstellar?
100
Been there,
100%.
done that.
Yeah, 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 100%. The other thing too is just like the why of space, right? Like exploration, scientific achievement, the unknown. I mean, the same honestly, frankly, the same things that have me interested in the underwater world. I wouldn't say I'm just as, but I'm nearly as interested in the oceans as
Yeah,
I am space, just because these are uncharted bits of territory that it seems like have lots of potential for, human expansion. I mean, I don't think we've done nearly what we could or maybe even should have in the water. I mean, I see no
yeah.
reason why. I mean, we've got pressurization and all this junk figured out. I see no reason why we don't have,
Right.
frankly, underwater communities and stuff like that going on right now. I would love to see that. So
I was listening to Joe Rogan and he said something like space is right here on Earth. It's in our oceans. Like there's some crazy stuff in there that we just don't even
yeah,
know about yet. Like why aren't we
hundred
studying
percent.
that more?
Yeah, so I'm for anything that just, again, it's I can't help it. There's something I just have that bug. There's something in me that has that excitement about adventure and achievement and the unknown. I do. I just have that sort of adventure bug that is really really cool. So I'd
What's
like to see
what's
more
funny
coming
though,
from that.
I find the ocean kind of fascinating too. I like looking up cool stuff about it, but ocean terrifies me to death. Like it
Mhm. Yeah.
freaks me out. I don't like. I'll go like swimming at the beach or whatever. I will never go on a cruise ship. Like I stay
Oh,
keep me away from
really?
the ocean. Yeah,
Really? So it's
I'm not terrified of drowning. I wouldn't say it's an irrational fear. I would just rather not be on the water. But when it comes to space, someone
wow.
said, "Hey, like you're gonna go on a rocket tomorrow. You might die. Like you're going to Mars." I'd be like, you know what? Sign me up. Like might as well.
Really?
No
Oh,
fear.
that's
No fear of that.
super
The ocean,
fascinating.
I think it's because I think there's something about just not being able to see what the heck is in the water. Like, you're right there, and who the heck knows
Oh,
what's in there?
man.
Just
Yeah, it's a
there's something
horror
about
movie
them that
waiting to
just kinda
happen.
exactly. So, anyway, good stuff. So
Yeah.
I just made a little, I'll just go through this quickly. I just kinda list that on some of my favorite stories set in space or at least about
Hmm.
space. I'm not gonna talk about each of them really much, just, great stories I think that everyone should watch or read. Interstellar, number 1, just a fantastic movie. Dune,
Oh, man.
another great one. It doesn't take place as much in space, but, just a great sci-fi movie, and I kinda categorize it as fantasy as well. Alien, did you ever watch the Alien movie? Or is that too far
No.
for you? Okay.
No.
That's another good one. And then my last one, Deep Impact. Even though it's not about space, it's kind of space related. Deep Impact is a great one.
Yeah, 100%. I love Deep Impact. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah. Underrated.
I think it's highly underrated. Yeah, I think it lives in the shadow of Armageddon.
Yeah.
But I love Armageddon though as well.
Yep.
Definitely for me, it's Apollo 13, um, Armageddon. I think I'm definitely going to put. Frankly, I'm going to steal two of yours: Dune and Deep Impact. Um, Dune was phenomenal. I mean, now
So
great.
good.
I've only
So good.
seen I've only seen, like, the new, like I've had people tell me, and these are just, whatever. I've had people tell me that, the old version was better. I don't think most people
Exactly.
share that.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would agree with that. Um, but I just loved what they did with
It is good.
this new Dune. And I'm so pumped for more. So, uh,
People have kind of
yeah,
said, and I kind of hope it won't. I don't think it'll ever get up to this, but people are saying it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings of this day, where there's
interesting.
because this is going to be a
Yeah.
part 1 and part 2, and then there's other books, but there's basically 6 main books that Herbert wrote in the series, and so they're saying like keep making the adaptions of it and kind of be like the big thing of our kind of generation, which I'd be
Yeah.
for. They're so
Oh.
good.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited for that. And then I think I would have to say, and this is a little bit of a different one, but we're gonna watch it next week. Space Cowboys is actually one of my very favorite space movies. Now, it's a comedy, of course, but it's also a drama. And I think Space Cowboys is just a fantastic movie. So anyway, those are my top space movies for sure.
Awesome. Good. I
Yeah.
think that kind of wraps up the space uh
Yeah, at least for the general
Oh,
overview.
yeah. And
Yeah,
like I said, thank you for, if you like getting down, I think Steve and I probably a lot of times prefer getting down to the nitty-gritty topics and really kind of going over some hard thoughts to, tangle with, and kind of looking at different points for that. But sometimes these general topics, one, help us just kind of get refreshed and kind of get going with not having to think too much about it. And then also sets the stage for going deeper into these topics. So we're just getting started, and we're not
yeah,
slowing down anytime soon. So thanks for the
yeah.
hanging on for the ride.
100%, 100%. Stories of the week.
Yeah,
I think you've gone first the last few times, so I'll take it away
you
first this
take it
time,
away. Take it
and
away.
and then we'll let you carry us into the sunset. So, mine is just this concept of budgeting your tasks. So, story time. I love budgeting. I This is another thing that I think me and Alex both love for different reasons and using different tools and stuff.
Yeah.
But I am a huge personal finance nerd, and the big thing though for me is I am specifically a zero-based budgeting nerd. And this is because I like dealing with reality, right? So most budgeting is based on theory. I like to budget based on reality. What is actually in the bank account? Where does it need to go before I get paid the next time, etc. And so what this introduces is a concept of scarcity. Okay. Scarcity is an acknowledgement that your resources are finite. Okay. You do not have unlimited resources. And the thing is, this is true with money. It's also true with time. And it's actually more true with time than money because more money can be achieved and acquired. More time cannot. It in some cases it can, but not ultimately. Nobody can actually buy more time. You can just substitute your time for other things. And so, needless to say, it's very important to deal with the reality of the fact that there really only are 24 hours in a sun rotation day, okay, on Earth. And so we have to deal with that. We have to live within those confines, okay? And so I like to budget my tasks. And this is something that I've sort of always wanted to do, but frankly, it's always been too hard. Like I've already got right, like my project management tool, and then I was using a digital or not a digital, but a actual physical planner, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna like go through the extra trouble of transferring all of these tasks to my calendar also and have them in three. Do I really need my tasks in three places? So I recently, ironically, I was listening to a budgeting podcast when I was tuned into this app.
Yeah.
But there's an app called Sunsama, Sunsama, that is basically, and it's not made by the same people or anything, but it basically does exactly what my paper planner, my physical planner did in terms of the way that you go through weekly planning and weekly reviews and setting your goals and objectives for the week and things like that. Um, but it does it digitally. And it's again, it just honors the very same principles of the physical planner that I use, even though it wasn't made by the same people. And I thought, what the heck? I've been saving up money for my annual renewal for the planner subscription anyway. It's literally just as much, it's the same amount of money, only give or take a few dollars to upgrade to this app. So I'm going to try it out. So I gave it the 14-day trial a shake and I ended up buying it because it has been absolutely game changing for me. It's really incredible. Basically, my to-dos that are set up in my project management system automatically flow into this planner app, actually via a calendar, but whatever. They get into the system. And then what I do is it takes you through this whole process each morning of arranging your tasks and placing them on the calendar. And so you have to deal with the reality of how much time you think something is going to take versus how much it actually takes, and actually sticking within those boundaries of time that you have. So anyway, it's been a total game changer for me. So if you are somebody who struggles with getting stuff done, think about a tool like Sunsama that can help you budget your tasks and sort of deal with that scarcity.
That's cool. You've told me before a couple different organization apps and tools to use, and I've always like wanted to try them, and I never have. I just stick to a very simple like Excel spreadsheet, punch in by hour when I'm doing that week, and then call it good. And
Such a nerd. Such a
Maybe there's a better way to do it, maybe your way, but, I don't know. I think I might stick with my simplistic, Excel spreadsheet hour by hour.
man. Man, it's no, I mean, if that works for you, great. For me, the trouble with me is I really want to try not to do um double tasking as much as possible, but there is a legitimate difference. And actually this tool, Sensama, the founder of it, talks about this a lot. Um, your project management tool is not the same thing as your daily planner. Okay, these are actually two different things. And a lot of people try to shove that functionality together and it doesn't
Yeah.
work. They're actually two different things. Um, but the way my setup works now, I've got my project management where my team and my objectives work. And yes, that does mean in some cases I'm actually crossing off a to-do item in two separate places.
Yeah.
Double satisfaction as far as I'm concerned. But so yes, I do have to do that. But I was doing that in my physical planner anyway. It's just now I don't have the extra work of transferring it into a physical thing. It sort of just automatically shows up
Mhm.
in the digital space. And now I have that with me at all times on my phone or whatever, so I can look at it wherever. So if you're somebody who is just interested in using technology as a way to assist with being able to plan your days and be more effective, then hey, I mean, I say do it. And you're in a case again where you're working solo. You're not really necessarily working with a team where you have to get all your to dos and everything punched in. Well, I say that assumingly. I don't really know what your work life is like in terms of that stuff. If you guys use a project management system or anything, but I digress. The spreadsheet, I'm sure, will work fine for some people, but not everybody is a total spreadsheet nerd like you are, Alex. So I don't know that it's feasible for everybody, but
That's true. I'll just gonna leave it at that. That's
leave it at that. All right, what's up? What's up with your stories
Man, okay,
this
so
week? What's
I
up?
am really cheating today because I've actually, now that I'm into my job and I got a good schedule now, I've actually been able to take a breather and actually enjoy some like good shows and like
Yeah.
actually enjoy some time. So, I'm gonna get through just a couple recommendations really quick. So I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I don't think I covered this yet here. I don't think
No,
so. Anyway, so if you like
sounds
Nicolas
great.
Cage, I'm not a Nicolas Cage nerd. There's people that know more about his movies and more familiar with them than I am, but I am a fan. And it's a great movie. It's just a great Nicolas Cage
Uh,
movie.
So
I
well,
really
wait,
recommend it.
whoa. I had to stop you. I had to stop you. Are
Okay.
you are you an actual Nicolas Cage fan, or are you a make fun of Nicolas Cage because he's Nicolas Cage fan? What kind of
No,
fan?
I actually think that he when he takes on a role, even if it's crazy and wacko, he like gives 100% of himself to that role, and he makes it like unique to. I don't. He doesn't just take a role willy nilly and just kind of go for it. It's like, oh, I'm Nicolas Cage, whatever. Like he takes his acting seriously, and so I really actually am a fan of him really giving it his utmost on each role that he takes.
So I actually agree, and I
Yeah,
I'm
awesome, awesome.
I'm sorry to derail you here.
No,
But
you're
this is
fine. You're
the
fine.
story podcast, and I actually don't know what the story is on why it's a thing to make fun of Nicolas Cage. I think maybe he had some bad roles, maybe along the way,
There
that
was, yeah.
but I don't know what it was, but, like, Con Air, Gone in 60 Seconds, National Treasure, these are some of my favorite movies, and I think Nicolas Cage does there's another one, might just be called Gone. There's another one that he does that I thought they were absolutely great
He's in,
movies.
like, objectively at least a half a dozen amazing movies that everyone Face Off is a great one too, and then I also like Guarding Tess. There's probably actually 10.
Guarding Tess,
Guarding
yes.
Tess is so good.
Oh
What a
my
great one.
gosh, yes, I
So,
love that movie, yeah.
there are arguably close to 10 movies he's in that are just flat out good. That, like,
Yeah.
people unless, like, you actually really dislike Nicolas Cage, you think are good movies. And then yeah, I guess he got into some Rocky movies and some like slower parts or whatever that didn't really fit for him. And then before kind of my time looking into media stuff, I guess he just kind of was a little bit weird to like off camera, like in his personal life, that kind of made him, a little bit of a, not as um easier to digest than like someone like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or something like that. And so
Sure.
just a little and so I think a little bit of that. But yeah, it's like a thing where it's like, oh, do you like Nicolas Cage or do you just like him because he's Nick Cage? It's a really weird thing. But no, I really
Yeah.
like Nick Cage, and this movie is really funny. So anyway, it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
So wait. So actually, were you gonna like share anything about the movie? I derailed you, and I'm not
I
sure that you actually said anything about the
I wasn't.
movie.
I was gonna go through these kind of quickly. I will
Oh,
say so.
okay.
It's not a documentary, but it is a movie where Nick Cage plays himself, Nick Cage, and in the movie he is washed up. Um, Family stuff isn't going well.
Oh, oh no, we were
You know,
just seeing his
yeah,
faces.
have you really never heard of this movie?
I
Okay, I
actually do think I
I'm
have. It's
I'm gonna
ringing a bell.
I'm gonna read the synopsis then because it's so great. Like if you ever want to watch, I'll watch it with you.
Does it make fun of Nick Cage because he's Nick Cage and people make fun of Nick Cage being Nick Cage? Is it a meta? Is that what the
Dude,
movie is?
it is so good. In the same movie, it pokes a couple jabs at him, but at the same time, it is a perfect um tribute to how great he is. It does both perfectly well.
Really?
It is an amazing movie. It is so good. Um, but here's what it's about. Unfulfilled and facing financial ruin, actor Nick Cage accepts a $1 million offer to attend a wealthy fan's birthday party. Things take a wildly unexpected turn when a CIA operative recruits Cage for an unusual mission. Taking on the role of a lifetime, he soon finds himself channeling his most iconic and beloved characters to save himself and his loved ones. Dude, it is incredible.
Where do I watch this? How can I watch this movie?
Right
Where
right over here, big guy. You just come right over here and I'll take care of it.
you've
And
got it? You
I'm
have
sure
it.
you can stream it out places. We just honestly rented it from Redbox when Brooks' parents were visiting and we watched it that way. Maybe that'll be my movie pick after we watch yours. It's so good.
Wait, this can't be right. This says a tomato meter score of 100%. That can't be right. It can't be right.
What's the user tomato rating?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't
I
look
think
that.
I
Hang
think
on, I just
I think
saw
e
it on IMDb.
I think even that
Let's
is still really high.
see. Um, it's got an 86. Let's
86
see.
credit, 87 audience.
86,
That
86, and 87. That's
that
actually
makes
not bad. I mean, that's
that makes
pretty
sense.
good.
That makes sense to me, especially with a movie that's actually quite focused. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this movie is not gonna appeal to everyone to have that high of a score. Um, it is good. It is really good.
Wow. This is crazy. I
It'll
can't
be
wait.
it'll be a
Oh,
date night
man.
one night for us, Steve. It's really good. So
Absolutely.
if you like Nick
Okay.
Cage or even if you just like kinda interested, it's a great movie. Anyway, moving along, I finally finished the final season, the series finale to This Is Us, and um it was incredible. It was just it's exceeded all my expectations. So if you like drama, kind of like true to life stuff, this is definitely a great pick. The whole series is great and it finished off in a perfect way. Great writing and great way to finish a story. But then my real, I guess, kind of true story of the week, the James Webb Space Telescope. Steve and I were looking at pictures of this week. I actually can't spout off all the details on the telescope, but it's the most recent telescope used to take really detailed pictures of the universe. And I think it took this image in a span of I forget what it was. I forget if it was a couple weeks or a couple days or a month. It was a short time frame, whereas the Hubble telescope would have to take several weeks. I think maybe even like a few months, focused on a certain area to really get a picture down. This one did it super quick, and it has detailed, like in the one photo, like detailed galaxies, closer galaxies to us. And then if you zoom in, you can just see hundreds of specks further in the distance of other galaxies and other stuff just further out in space. And it was just
Man.
just really cool to see just how much is out there. Just really interesting.
Absolutely. Oh, man. Love it. Space, man. It's awesome.
Space, you gotta love it.
Yes, you do. Super good. Oh, man. Okay. Well, hey, are we good? Yeah, I think we're good, right?
I think we're good. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Sweet, dude. All right. Well, it's been fun, everyone. Thanks for listening to our banter. If you listen around for this long, yeah, if you stick around for these
Oh boy,
story of the week,
we need to get a
like,
T-shirt for you.
we need to get a t-shirt for you because you are a true believer, my friend.
Yes,
That
absolutely.
is it's super legit. Super fun that we get to do this and talk and people listen. So, fantastic. Well, like, share, rate, subscribe, all those cool things that you can do.
Tell your
Uh,
friends.
tell your friends. That is the same thing as sharing. I hear. And sharing is caring. So
Well,
share.
sharing verbally might be better than sharing with the click of a button.
This is true. Yes. This is a good point. Word of mouth is how podcasts usually spread. So it'd be super, super good if you would do that. And otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being a listener.
See ya.